Hello and welcome everyone. So we were discussing on construction safety and in continuation on the course that we have designed on construction safety. So today we are again going to discuss, as said, work permit system. So let's see what we have covered till now. So if you all, as you are all aware, that we are discussing this 9 element on construction safety, and in this 9 element we are still on element 4, and that is work permit system, because a lot of people have messaged me, so we need an example, we need the right kind of explanation for this particular system. So here it is, and I have tried and simplified to the best possible understanding that I have. Alright, so let's start. The concept I'm going to give you here today is about how the work permit system actually works, and what is work permit system, and we'll take an example that how to make a work permit. So you don't need multiple permits. You can have one single permit for all the works, and it becomes it makes your life easier, because one single permit for every activity. But the how you make the format, how you make the work permit format, that is more important. So here with an example we will be discussing on the work permit system. So let us understand first. So how does the permit system is set up? Primarily, if you really want to understand that how this permit system has been actually working, so we must first understand that what is permit, which we have discussed in earlier videos. So we have already discussed what is permit, how it works. So now today what we are going to discuss is establishing a written laid down policy and procedure. So what we will be discussing, we'll be discussing these 5 points. That is, how is a work permit system set up, establish written and laid down policy and procedure, develop procedures to put the policy into effect, define the site specific work or task, define responsibility and information required to incorporate in a work permit system. I do understand this video can go in extended lengths also, but this is actually work permit system 1 full day training. But now I'm going to give you a very crux of it, and I'm going to summarize it. So basically each element is to be discussed. Now when we discussed I said that I'm going to give you a concept. So the concept is rope. So whenever you want to establish a work permit system, you must understand rope. How? The very first aspect that we are going to take in this is, let us finish this slide and then we'll move forward. So first, establish a written and laid down policy and procedure. Now it is very important to first identify. So what we have to emphasize when it comes to policy, so you have to emphasize the importance of work permit, its implementation, policy, understanding, and understand why it's needed. Correct. Then specific to the work permit, specify why when a work permit is needed. Then establish a chain of command and define the responsibility of each party. Identify staff who is authorized, who will issue, who will revoke the permits. Then coming to developing procedures to put the policy into effect. So what are the procedures? So clearly identify the types of job required for work permit, explain the permit system, define the responsibilities. Now when we are defining the responsibilities, then what comes next? So once the policy and procedures are established, we develop the procedures that how this entire facility is going to work. Then we define site. What we define on site? Okay, these are the things that are going to happen on site. These are the tasks that are to be performed. Then we define the responsibilities. So once the tasks are defined, that these are the tasks, these are the responsibility of these individuals or any individual whosoever is going to execute that task, then finally coming to the information required to incorporate in a work permit. So what all are the information? When you are developing a work permit system, you must focus on these 5 simple points. When you focus on these 5 simple points, you will be able to define the work permit system. Now saying this is very easy. Now you have to understand each slide. Now each point takes 1 hour each to explain, but we don't have that much of time. So what we are going to do is we are quickly going to jump on to the conclusive, and that is example based learning. So when it comes to example based learning, the concept that I'm going to give you is ROPE, ROPE. ROPE. So what is this rope? So if you want to establish a work permit system, you must understand rope. ROPE. So it is not about defining the PPs. First and foremost thing is the most biggest confusion that people have is that we define work permit system. Okay, these PPs are to be worked. No, it is not so. So let us try and understand that how you can have single work permit for all the activities that you perform on site. Now, so concept starts from how is a work permit system set up. This is an example. So the very first aspect is that whenever we want to establish a work permit system, so what comes? We need to know the date and time. Yes. So the very first column, first section of the work permit. This is the first page, first section that defines date and time requested by department, location, and for work. If you have defined this, this is what? This is the record. So primarily you must, this goes to a record. So the rope function R comes here, that is record, that is deciding the work. So when we are deciding the work, it goes very simple. Deciding the work, rope concept, work permit basic information. What is a record? For record keeping we require date and time, we require who requested it, which department requested it, for which location, for what work, correct, for which work. So this comes on the first column. So the first column has these information. Now the second column comes to brief description of task and nature of work permit. Now when it comes to description of task, so keep a column blank. Just write down what activity has to happen. Okay, we want to change a valve, so we need these guys. Okay, no problem. So simple definition, just simply describe the task, that what task has to happen. So whenever you are issuing a work permit, so the task is to be defined. Now when the task is defined, so you already know the location, you already know the work that is to be performed, you know the task. So now you know the nature of permit also. So what is the nature of permit? Now we have defined work permit system into hot and cold. Why to define it hot and cold? Let everything be in one. So there can be hot also, there can be height also, there can be electrical also, there can be confined space also, there can be multiple agency involvement also, there can be excavation also, there can be digging also, and other specific, any specific, then you just specify. So now you think that we have defined the permit based on nature of work permit. Okay, so if you are going to work on height and you are going to do hot work, so 2 ticks are going to be there. If you are going to work at height and you are going to perform electrical work, so 2 ticks are going to be there. If you are going to work in a confined space and you are also going to perform a hot task, both are to be ticked. Electrical task, 3 are to be ticked. Multiple agency, 4 are to be ticked. Have it, no problem. Why? Because we are defining the nature of work permit. The person is going to work at height, he is going to perform a hot task, he is going to work in a confined space, and multiple agencies are going to be involved in this. Correct? So this clearly defines the nature of work permit. Now this is the second column that you have in your work permit. Now we start defining the responsibility. Now when we know that okay, we have established that what is to be done, so who will be the authorizing people? So authorizing people will be the area in charge. First, who is the plant head, if plant head is involved, site in charge, supervisor, activity administrator, who is going to so who will be the signing authorities there? So the people who is going to administer it is the right person. Who is the receiver? So who is the receiver? Receiver is the activity administrator who is going to administer that activity. He is the receiver. And who is the giver? The area, the site in charge, the supervisor. So this is from the company side, that is from the contractual side. So you can have 2 columns, company side and contractual side. So the receiver and the giver. So giver and receiver, both columns should be there, and there the authoritative signatures should be highlighted there. Now there, the 2 information that are required to be actually there is also how many workers are going to be involved in this activity. correct? So that is the number is to be defined, that okay, how many workers, these many workers are going to be defined. So when it comes to multiple agency, so you must know that how many workers are going to be involved. So one single permit and everything can be done in a single permit system, but each individual agency should have their own permit, and each permit is to be taken with multiple agency is going to work for a coordination activity. Now each individual company will have its own specific task, so based on that the permit brief description will change. So here one single permit for each, correct? So now how many worker? Now we have already understood R and we have understood O. So this is O, that is operate and authorization. So RO is records deciding the work. O is operate and authorization. Let us understand if further, that is permit checks. Now that you have defined, you have the signatures have happened, everything has happened. Okay, now the third part of the permit comes, and that is the check, and that is LOTO, lockout, tagout, excavation responsibilities, and safety patrol officer validation, that is on job completion. What you will check on job completion, before and after. So before and after checks of a safety officer. So what are the information? So this information comes on one page. So what are going to be the checks that are to be performed? So these tasks are very simple. How you perform these tasks? If you ask me that if a safety patroller has to go there and check, so what he'll be checking? He'll be checking whether the man, material and tools are cleared or are present, are okay or not, whether the caution boards or barricades are there or not, whether it is there and whether it is removed, whether it is man, material and tools are cleared from site, whether it is available and whether it is cleared from site. Then check whether the area is found, whether the area was clean, housekeeping was done or not, whether spillages was there. Spillages. So what you will do, you have to ensure that what are the provisions that you have taken for spillages, whether those provisions were done, whether any spillages have happened. So before and after. So the third section comes to the before and after of these checks, that is prepare, that is pre-checks, and define, that is post-checks. So now pre and post checks is your section 3. Now imagine this is happening on one single page. So everything is on one single page. Prepare, that is pre-check and post-check. What you have to check, what you have to do, and what you will be checking afterwards. So pre and post checks are there. So once, and these are very simple tasks. See, whatever I'm saying is, these are just 3 points I have said. Then 4 points, that is material is checked, caution boards are checked, barricades are checked, then whether the area housekeeping was okay, whether the oil spillage or anything is there, then guards to be kept and are removed, safety nets, lifelines, everything. Now then comes the final. So who was the safety officer who pre-checked, who was the person who post-checked, and their signature, time, date, all that is to be recorded. So this is the third section. Now in this third section, one more part that came was LOTO provisions. So if LOTO provision is there, then who has done that LOTO provision? How many logs are there? So you can highlight the departments, that these are the people or these are the departments. So you can have, based on your LOTO system, 4 departments. So 4 departments whose logs are going to be there. So in pre and post check, the LOTO is to be done. So pre check the LOTO is to be done, and is the LOTO removed, correct? So post is the LOTO removed. So this is how we are opening a work permit and we are closing a work permit. So both the sides. So it is on single page. Then came now that all this single page, first page work is done. So this is what is on the first page. Now comes the fourth and the final page, and that is the checklist task. So now what happens is that you just flip the page. On the back side you can have predefined. So this was ROP. We have understood ROP, that is prepare. So P is for prepare and E is for execution. So this is what ROPE stands for, that is checklist of task. Now activity checks, mandatory checks. Now what we have done is, we have to define the work. So hot work is there. So how you define hot work? We define hot work as, okay, workmen brief about firefighting methods, yes or no? Yes. Fire sanitary briefing is and of the duties are given or not? Yes. Bulk storage facilities there, flammable or combustible material information is given to him or not? Yes or no? Yes. Then obstruction or spark propagation, is it going to happen? So whether the area is cleared or not? Yes or no? Compressed gas cylinder, whatever the checks are to be done, whether it is done or not, whether they are informed or not, whether gas testing or the area LEL levels or the flammability levels are checked or not. Then firefighting, fire extinguisher, which type of fire extinguisher you have to put, water, foam, CO2, ABC, DCP, whatever, you just have to check, just tick marks. So these are the checklist for hot work permits. Similarly for height work, so height work, what you will check? You will check, okay, is the area prepared for with instructions? Height work, elevated working is going to be there, so scaffold is there, ladder is there, condition is okay or not, crawling ladder is okay or not, safety harness is there or not, adequate arrangements are there for anchor points or not, ladder is tied or not, barricades are available or not, correct? Then electrical lines are there or not, lifeline is required or not, then work platform has handrails, guardrails properly erected or not, then proper access is available for the platform or not. So these are work at checks. Similarly, if you want to go for confined space, multi-agency, so all these checks can be defined. So on the back side of the work permit, you can define the work based on activity like hot work, electrical work, confined space, multiple agency, height work, excavation, digging, anything or any specific. So when we are preparing the work permit, so you understood that we have already defined the work. So when we have defined the work, so each area, wise, job, task, everything is defined. So you just need to keep the checklist on the fourth part, that these are the checks that are to be performed. Keep it as short as possible, very brief checklist, which will give you a very clear cut idea that what all things are to be done. And believe me, these are the actual informations that are required in a work permit. You have already done pre and post, like pre what you are going to do, post what you are going to check. So all that is already defined, and those are general checks, correct? Similarly, you can have this permit. So this permit actually becomes a single page permit for any work. So this completes our ROPE concept. So rope concept, I hope that you guys have understood. Now when we are defining all this, you have to understand that yes, we are also going to be part of this. We are not the only task that you have to perform. I hope I was able to brief you on the example based work permit system. You just need to remember the rope concept. And what is the rope concept? The first part is record, decide the work, operate the authorization, prepare the checks and post checks, and finally execute with the checklist and task. So this is ROPE concept for you. I hope everybody has understood it and I was able to contribute. We'll keep on contributing more such videos. Keep liking and sharing, and do not forget to subscribe for our personal motivation. Thank you very much, friends.